All right. Do I hear a motion that the board authorize the administration to fulfill the request for information as requested by Ms. Garris on June 21st, 2021?
Madam Chair, I move that the board authorize the administration to fulfill the request for information as requested by Mrs. Garris on June 21st, 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Is there a second? Is there a second to the motion?
Can I second this? Okay, I'll make a second.
All right, thank you, Ms. Garris. All right, I'll just give a little bit of background on this. Ms. Garris has requested information and some questions to be answered by the administration, and to fulfill that request will require a significant amount of time and district resources, and so because the board, we act as a body and not as individuals. In order to expend those resources to provide the information that she requested, it warrants a board vote. And so, board, I believe you received information regarding Ms. Garris's request. Ms. Garris, would you like to?
Sure. So we've got an agenda analysis on this, and while the analysis refers to 3 policies, it does not mention the actual policy that explains how board members request information and how those requests are handled. So the one policy that is almost identical to Richland 2's policy that Senator Massey sought the Attorney General's opinion on in April of this year. And it's Senator Massey's belief that the policy was written to circumvent South Carolina Supreme Court's holding in Wilson v. Preston. And his letter includes Justice Beatty's statement that reads, in part, in my view, an elected official, by virtue of the office held, has the inherent right of timely access to any and all information possessed by the governmental entity that he or she is duly elected to. To hold otherwise would condone the disenfranchisement of the people the elected official represents. The denial of information would clearly hinder, if not nullify, an elected official in the performance of his duties. So not only have I not received an answer as to the amount of time estimated to produce each request, but I don't think the documents I'm requesting require a significant commitment of staff time and district resources, as the district is claiming. More importantly, I believe that all board members should be asking for and reviewing this information, as we are in the midst of a $365 million bond referendum, where we just approved a budget increase for 2 projects. We have projects that are behind schedule, and we have more budget increases expected. Also, a couple of these items that I've requested in the past, but they've just never been provided. And to be clear, in no way are these unusual items I'm asking for. In surrounding districts, some of the same information is not only provided to the board, but requires board approval before the district can move forward. That information is then posted on the district's website as part of their board packet. Our board has not even laid eyes on some of the most important documents pertaining to the bond referendum. And when I was told that it would take staff a long time to pull all the information I was asking for, I explained how I was very intentional in choosing the items to ask for, and in doing so, I tried to ensure that those were easily accessible and available in electronic format. Then I asked for the amount of time estimated to produce each request, and what items were not available electronically, and what items did not currently exist and would have to be produced. In addition to my request for information, those questions, along with others that could be addressed and answered easily and quickly, as noted in the agenda analysis, have not been answered in more than a month. And while some of the information I requested was more relevant prior to last month's vote to increase the budget for the transportation facility, the information, I believe, is better late than never. Now, the reason I don't think these documents I'm requesting require a significant amount of staff time is because in May, when I asked for a report for legal fees spent out of the Board of Trustees account because I wanted to see when a member of the board was provided legal advice, I was told there's a significant amount of time work to gather and redact these bills. When I explained that I only requested a report, not invoices, I was told again to pull and redact the invoices is very time consuming. And while board policy says that the board's authority is granted only to the board acting as a group, that policy isn't applied equally to all members, because less than a week later, the board chair emailed me 7 pages of invoices that were provided when she asked for them, along with an explanation of her reasons for contacting legal counsel. So just as I find it hard to believe that 7 pages of invoices required a significant amount of work and was very time-consuming, as I was told on 2 separate occasions, I also find it hard to believe that my current request for information will take a long time to pull together and require staff to work extra hours. And just so it's noted, during my time on this board, most of my requests for information have been met with resistance. This is clearly personal, it doesn't foster transparency, and it hinders my ability to perform my duties. I don't know of any other board member, not just in this district, but in the state, who has had to file a Freedom of Information request, pay hundreds of dollars out of pocket, and get the Attorney General's opinion just to be provided information that they are legally entitled to. And just so the context is provided as part of the record, I'm requesting that my emails to the board and email exchanges between myself and the operations finance officer be included in the minutes. This doesn't require a board vote, but I just wanted that noted on the record. So does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Garris. Mr. Salters, I believe the request was directed to you. Could you shed some light on the time and resources that will be required to provide what Ms. Garris has requested?
I'll be happy to give you my opinion of the time, Ms. Green. Obviously, Ms. Garris has her opinion of the time, and she has a very different opinion of what actually it would take. I'm referencing an email. Your motion was referencing June 21st. The original email was June 16th. It's a 3-page email that comprises a number of questions and comments from Ms. Garris. And in that email, it asked for a number of different things, very detailed. I sat with our staff yesterday, went through the email, and put together time frames about what it would take to pull this information together, because some of it is in electronic format, some of it is hard copy. Just for example, this is one pay application for 1 month for one job. And you want detailed information about the jobs in the referendum. And so you're gonna have one of these for 31, 32 jobs going right now. And you have to gather that information for however many years the job's been going, copy that information and or scan it, depending on what format we need this in. If it's electronic, we scan it. If it's, some of it is already in existence in an electronic format. If it's printed, we have to print it and make copies of it. We have one person in our office who manages our bond program payments and funding and so forth. And it's going to take about a month worth of time to go through this email, gather all of this information into a packet of information that can be then received to the board. Happy to do that. There's no question we're happy to do that. There's never a question as to whether the board should see it, can see it, wants to see it. Not a problem. Happy to sit with any board member and discuss any item within the information. The issue is, this was just but one email. And taken in its context, that's one email. We get emails like this every day. And so this one staff member has a job to do and does that job every day. And so now you're laying this on top of that staff member. Whether you believe it or not, it's a lot of extra work. And we're happy to do it. We just need direction to do it.
So explain to me again what that was you were holding up.
This is a pay application.
Okay, so where in my request did I request a pay application?
If you look at, can you run a detailed report for Centerville that would show all line items for the expenditures related to that job? For example, a report that would show where the $1,385 was spent in April 2021. This is where you would see that.
Okay, so that's similar to a monthly check register, and it's just,
No, ma'am.
It-
A monthly check register would show the total of the pay application.
right,
It would be a check to the vendor, to the contractor for the total amount of money. What you are asking for would be in the detail how many screws we bought, how many block we bought that month or whatever. That would be in the line item detail of the pay application.
so on our monthly check register, there is that 16 or 13-digit account code over to the side, and that's assigned to, the last 3 digits I think are assigned to the school. Could you not pull that code?
You're going to see this amount of money, the pay application amount. That's not the detail level that you want, according to your email.
Okay, so you couldn't say, when I look on the monthly check register and it says, or our monthly budget report, and it says $1,385 to Centerville. You don't have any way of pulling a
You're going to have to
report
tie that back to a pay application. Yes, ma'am.
just for Centerville.
Yes,
You-
ma'am.
You can't click on that 1,385 and it tells you, here's where that number
It
came
doesn't
from.
work that way.
Okay. So let's nix that then, until we can find an easier way to get that information. So let's talk about these others one by one.
I
So the cost of the Gilbert Bus Lot office and paving.
Ms. Garris,
yes.
I mean,
We can't sit here all night and go through this over and over and over.
So we
and
can't
over.
talk about how much time each of these requests are going to take?
I think you've taken
because-
up enough of their time.
well, I mean, the staff member that would be required to do this instead of their daily duties, approximately for a week, how much would it cost for that staff member to just focus on pulling this information for a week?
Approximately for a week would be about $1,250
Okay, so like I
of
said,
salary.
we're going to take out that one request because obviously that was the most burdensome one. And I don't understand how there's not an easier way, but okay.
But Ms. Garris, I mean, and this is,
I mean, I appreciate your perspective, I really do, but then I also understand intimately the reality of how these documents come to us, where they're stored, and how the system, our Business Plus financial system works.
Well,
So
and
that's what we're driving this off of.
and I'm sorry, Mr. Salters, but, I mean, we have, as a board, our responsibility is to supervise and evaluate the superintendent. And his job is to supervise and evaluate his staff. And we hold him accountable for making sure that day-to-day operations and expenditures and things like that are done properly and well. And I think time and again, our audits, our credit rating, every review that we are subjected to by external bodies comes out with an A++. And so clearly we do it well and we do it right. And with recent exceptions because of some unexpected changes, we've had a couple projects that we had to add money to. But routinely, our projects come in under budget. And I think that's a credit to the way our staff is managed. But it is our responsibility as the board to hold Dr. Little responsible for making sure that these projects are managed well. As a board, I don't think we're supposed to look at a 400-page document line by line. That's not our responsibility. That we hold the superintendent responsible for that. And then if something goes wrong, we deal with him and he deals with his staff. That governance is not getting down into the very, very, very fine details, because there are things on those documents that require master's in engineering degrees, or you have to understand how foundation work is constructed, or electrical expenses. I'm not a construction expert, and so to look at that documentation and to look at those costs and I know very well that Mr. Salters and Mr. Warren and their staff, they negotiate extremely frugally on behalf of the taxpayers in our district. And so I'm not sure what is served by trying to get that level of detailed information.
Okay, well, that's why I sent the board an email and explained what is served by getting that detailed level of information. And I can go over that again if you'd like, but as Mr. Anderson said, he thinks I've taken up enough of your time. But a couple of things that you just touched on. So I don't need to know about electrical and construction. If you look at these items I'm asking for, that's not what this is. This all has to do with budget. And like you said, there's recent exceptions with unexpected changes. Well, had the board been on top of this, we might have would have seen those coming, or had we been provided the paperwork that was provided to the Department of Education that a citizen sent us, that the district knew in January that this transportation facility was $6.5 million over budget, but we were only told in May, and then in June.
But Ms. Garris, the administration has explained to us that during that time, they were trying to value engineer it to get it more in line with what they
it came
eventually
out to the
presented
same
to us.
exact price.
And I mean, really, a $1,300 line item is extremely important. $1,300 is a significant amount of money. But in the scope of a $365 million bond project, we need to leave that to the folks that do this not
We can leave it to them. I
24/7
just
for
want to
20
be able to
years.
track it. And as it stands right now, we cannot do that. And you said it's not our job
Ms.
to look
Garris,
at.
you get a
not our
budget to
job.
actual report every month for the bond referendum program
one
that gives you a
page.
percentage of expenditures to the budget. So you
one
do
page.
get the ability to track the overall progress of the budget and the program.
It's one page for $365 million worth of projects. And I was still, had a couple things. You said that it's not our job to look at a 400-page document line by line. Well, then I don't know why we're presented the comprehensive annual financial report each year, if they don't expect us to read that line by line.
But that is our responsibility because that is a report that is delivered to us because that's high-level governance.
So you
where-
don't think we should be overseeing this bond referendum? We should, when there's overages, we should just
That's not
approve
what the
them?
chair is saying. What the chair is saying is that anyone in business that's working now, I just left the hospital planning committee, that's why I was late. We are talking about construction costs that are higher than expected right now. Anyone who's running a business is talking about that. That has nothing to do with the school district, it has nothing to do with planning. It has everything to do with the reality of building today.
But that
So-
that has nothing to do with why we're over budget on these two projects. It has nothing to do with the cost of construction. One was a scope disconnect, and the other was the amount just wasn't included in the budget to begin with.
Madam Chair, I move we close the conversation.
Thank you. All right. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
No. This is an
Okay.
aye vote is to
For-
grant the
That's
request.
fine, I thought we were, okay.
Would you please restate the motion?
Madam Chair, I move the board authorize the administration to fulfill the request for information as requested by Ms. Garris on June 21st, 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
And the motion is defeated.